Welcome to the Bang the Drum podcast. We're going to call this the opening day edition.
We are.
It won't be out during opening day, but it could be. We are watching the Reds right now in the top of the third, and Hunter Green is pitching a gem. So it could be a very good year for the Redlegs, hopefully with Frank Kona there. Welcome aboard, Stevie boy.
Thank you. Glad to be here. It's going to be fun.
Yep.
It's going to be fun.
We've been planning this for a while before we do some introductions. So I work in the software industry. Steve does sound and everything for his band. He's a drummer, hence the name. We'll get into that a little bit. And this is at least our third or fourth take at trying to get this thing right with tech issues. A little embarrassing.
Probably more than 3 or 4, but whatever.
Trying to be.
Sounds good.
I was trying to be a little generous there. So, yeah, we've had some problems. And we both consider ourselves tech savvy. Well, we did. I'm not sure we do now. So we're getting there, though. We're trying.
So there may be a difference between tech savvy and old tech savvy. If you're a 20-year-old and struggle with this, you probably need slapped. But if between me and you, we're old, we have some difficulties, you just kind of roll with it.
We do. Typically, though, when these young folks need help with tech stuff, I can usually school them. So this is a different world. The podcast world is a little different. It's
for sure.
It's a little different. So, anyway, we're getting sidetracked. We're 5 minutes into the show. Every last one, we're already sidetracked.
Great.
So
that's what it's about.
Yeah, that's right. So we're going to talk about it a little bit. So I'm Scott Dryden. I've been doing podcasts. I did podcasts for a number of years. Covered the NFL draft, covered the MMA for real, as they say. Real. That's what the teenagers say, real. About 2006 or 7, 8. It's hard to believe it's been that long ago. So got to see the best, which is fun. You know, kind of my favorite sport for the vast majority of my life has probably been football. Basketball, we don't really care about anymore. It's March Madness, unless you're gambling on it. But baseball, we do. So Steve and I have been friends for 30-some years, a long time. Season ticket holder since 2020. Waited till they officially drafted Burrow, and he and I have been going to games. We park at Hilltop. We'll do some, we could have moved, but we decided to stay there. We really like the Hilltop atmosphere. Plan on doing some podcasts live from there, and we tailgate. We're there anyway, smoking cigars, drinking a few pops today. I am drinking Cincy Light. Stevie boy's got the light stuff going. I got a cigar going. It's true, he does. I'm smoking a Perdomo, so we'll talk about that. Yeah, Bengal Jam.
Bengal Jam.
Yep.
Most of you probably know.
I'd say that's right. So we're gonna dive into it. So that's kind of me. You know, got a teenager. We're doing this from my patio, which is a pretty cool setup. Bengals, Ohio State stuff. We plan on doing a lot of them from here, but we'll move around. And we'll get into the theme of the show in a second. But Bang the Drum podcast. Some of you are probably thinking, where'd you get Bang the Drum from, Stevie? I'll turn it over to you. You can talk about why it's Bang the Drum. Give us a little details about yourself. Try not to make it too boring. Jazz it up a little bit. If you have to lie. And let us know what you think, big boy.
Well, I'm a musician, been doing it since 19 years old. I was actually in band years and years ago with this old guy over here. Took some time off for kids, whatever, got back into it about 15 years ago and been going ever since. About 25 to 35 shows a year. Used to play locally a lot where we live. Now I'm with a band. We mainly play in Cincinnati. Probably 90% of our stuff is in Cincinnati. So you can catch us on Facebook at Shuffle. Just look up Shuffle. You should be able to find us, like us. You'll catch all of our events. We're all over the place. Beachmont, Eastgate. We play at casinos. So we're everywhere. As far as the podcast name, probably had a little bit to do with me, but more with just Scott's idea of the song. Again, never can remember his name. What was his name again? Todd Rundgren. Todd Rundgren. Yeah. So it's basically Bang the Drum all day. They do it's probably the second or third song after a touchdown. They do so many songs anymore you can't keep track of them.
It's a little tricky.
But pretty cool song. You probably heard it on the intro. It's fun, gets everybody going.
Yeah.
Sports feel. So Scott brought it up. I liked it, which is rare, and we rode with it. So a little bit about me. I do have 2 girls, 2 stepsons. Love them to death. They hate me, but hey, it is what it is. It is what it is.
If you want to find a list of people like Steve, it won't take you long, so you can do your research there.
Very nice.
Do your band members like you?
Very nice.
Do your band members like you?
They fake it.
They do. That's good. At least they fake it.
Yeah.
Just give them time, right? You haven't been with this band long enough. So, yeah, Shuffle's a great band. Stevie's actually a talented drummer. So, I hate to say it about him, but he is.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Been doing it a long time. I played trumpet way back then, so
Mhm.
been a long time. Played college too. So talking about the show, in the past, I've been known to get a little cantankerous and go after people, and who knows, maybe I still will. But
Oh, good word.
yeah, cantankerous is a good word. So like the other day, I told some guy that I was really good at two things: sports and seeing that people are idiots or not. And I told him I'll be right and you're an idiot. So that's pretty good one. I thought so, but I'm going to try not to be that way. Right. So I'm going to do my best. Even if Steve vapes and acts like an idiot, I'm going to do my best. Now I will be mean to him and he will me, but we're going to not get into all that stuff, the whole ESPN, clickbaits and all that kind of stuff. We're going to leave the media out. There's plenty of people talk about all those idiots. That's not nice. I'm already off the trail there, but we both feel the same way. Most of them don't even really talk sports, and most of the people on there don't even know what they're talking about. So we'll steer clear of that. We're going to look at it. I don't know if you're a Curb Your Enthusiasm fan. I certainly am. Probably my favorite comedy of all time, but the structure of their show is they get like a show guide or whatever. Then, back then they're not doing the show now, but especially when Richard Lewis was there, and they would just kind of play off each other. So that's essentially what we're going to do. We're not going to be scripted. We've got some guidelines and things we're going to talk about and just feed off each other, and things pop in. We're going to do it. It's going to be more fun, hopefully. And we'll drink some, I'll try to drink some different beers from time to time. Steve's kind of limited on his beer taste, to say the least.
True. I'll do it for Bang the Drum podcast.
There you go. Because we don't want to work. We just want to talk Bengals football all day.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
That would be nice. So we'll drink some different beers. The Cincy Light, if you haven't tried, it's really good. We'll get some Rhine Guys, Mad Tree, and all the other ones there. I've tried most of them. So I don't like craft beers, but I'll drink the rest of them. And as we start, we're going to get into, I think both of us had high hopes, like many of you probably did, for the 2024 Bengals. I don't know that I've ever been more frustrated with the season. And you're talking about a team that ended up 9-8, right? And to be that frustrated, that tells you where the expectations were. I thought coming into it, I've been pretty critical of their draft, saying, I did get into some people about that on Twitter and whatnot. That that many youngsters making the team, those rookies, was too much for a team trying to win a championship. Unfortunately, I was right. A lot of those guys haven't panned out. So when I look back at that, the offensive line, speaking of 2024, wasn't very good. But honestly, they played probably close to well enough to win because the offense was so good. But the defense, as you know, was a keep it clean train wreck, right? Just a misery there. And I think the push-pull, if you've been in the corporate world, which I have for a long time, sometimes you can read in between the lines. It's tough in football, but the similarities are there. You could feel that Lou wanted something, Zach wanted something. The front office, there's this tug of war. Who's playing who? Nothing ever jailed, right? Who was in the game? We talked about it at the game, like, why isn't so and so there? What are they doing here the last 2 years, right? And you look up the snap counts, which are readily available now. It just seemed like every button they pushed. The linebackers didn't play well. There were some injuries there, but that defensive line was miserable last year. Geno Stone, I'm not gonna go speak out of both sides of my mouth because I thought it was a good signing. I thought he played well in Baltimore.
Me too.
But he struggled with angles and stuff like that. So when you think back to that season, what do you think about last year, Stevie, and the disappointment and what could have been?
Well, I think it starts with the slow starts. Like we've just heard, people talk about all the, again, we don't get too much into it, but the gurus or the people who cover their team on a daily basis. I love all them guys. They talk about it till they're blue in the face. They have to start faster. And last year, it did not work out that way. We were freaking miserable on opening day. It was absolutely awful. And it basically just, Joe wasn't right. He wasn't right. They wasn't clicking. I don't care what they say. Jamar holding out, absolutely hurt. Yep. Absolutely hurt. T had a great camp from what we understand. We were there once, had a good camp. I believe we were at the Green Bay, right? Was that Green Bay?
Yep.
Yeah. And it seemed like a good practice. They just
the Tampa preseason game too.
Yes, absolutely. And they have to start faster. And I thought that with, I've heard you say it, I've heard other people say it, and I believe the same way. The offensive line doesn't have to be great. They just have to be average or even maybe slightly below average because of how fast Joe gets rid of the football. He's a 1-2 read guy. Yeah. He knows where to go with the football.
Absolutely.
So if he can make those reads and make them correctly, he's so accurate. things will get done and they'll move the football, but they score so quickly. The defense has to be able to stop somebody, and they just didn't do it. Bad angles, poor coverage, miscommunication, like just across the board, they were bad. Got better toward the end of the year, but guess what? They also played inferior talent toward the end of the year. So we can sit here and say, well, they played better. Maybe they'll, be better this year. Not necessarily. You know what I mean? We'll get into it, probably our next segment, what they did to try and get better after what we've discussed. And in my opinion, they've got some work to do. They've got some work to do left this year. And, maybe they'll wait till the draft and see what they can do to get better from what we've seen last year. But, hopefully Al Golden can bring something. But it was disappointing for a 9-8 football team, so let's just hope that 9-8, I mean, just think they win one more than, they're in the playoffs. Who knows what happens? Maybe some confidence. Maybe they win one game, and then you just never know about that, one game. So, but with that being said, we were still really, really disappointed with how it turned out.
Oh, absolutely. Even some of the, even the games they won at the end, I mean, not every game, like the Denver game, all that stuff, they just played so poorly. Just tried to give it away, and some things had to go right. So, I mean.
And things didn't, there was things that happened, you're like, did that really happen against them?
Yeah.
Like in 21 and 22, there was things that went their way. You're thinking, I can't believe that just went the Cincinnati Bengals way, because things just didn't go their way then. And then last year, nothing defensively went their way. So especially the Denver game, that was unreal. How that game unfolded.
Those 2 years that you're speaking of too, they were just, I don't think they were great defenses. People are writing history, but they were good enough that they could hold their water a little bit.
Opportunistic.
Yeah, and they held their water a little bit, so those opportunities happen. Right now, they were just, guys weren't even in cover. You're not going to get a tip ball or anything. Not early in the season. It was
guys scored 35 to win.
I mean, Russell,
give me a break.
Russell Wilson lit you up. I mean, come on. And they were all like, oh, Steelers. That team was awful offensively, horrible offensive team. So, we'll talk about we'll get into free agency. We'll talk about Trey, and then we'll get into the, where we think their weaknesses are leading into the draft. And we're going to get heavy draft centric in our upcoming episodes. And we'll try to do some live stuff the day of the draft. But I'll use an example here. We're certainly not going to get into basketball. And I grew up an Indiana fan as a kid, because of Bob Knight, essentially, right? I got to see their team practice. David Bailey, Calvert Cheney, all them, root for Steve Offer and all those guys back then. More so, if I had to pick a team, it'd be Ohio State now. But it's still kind of like Indiana for that reason. Gabe Cup's going to Ohio State, which is big. For my son, played in high school a few times, heck of a player. But you think about what we're not going to be. So Indiana was excited. Mike Woodson left. Tricky situation. That's when you bring somebody home. He was a hell of a basketball player. Mike Woodson was big time at Indiana, and he's a pretty damn good pro. But he didn't have the resume to hire him. The only reason they hired him because, got in that debate, even with the AD a little bit, exchanging emails. Like, you're hiring him because he played here. You see that. Cincinnati does that a lot. There's been some pieces here recently. We had this worked up before that, bringing their own back. But, Xavier went the other route with Patino. It was probably a good call. But the fans, now they're excited. DeVries or whatever his name is from West Virginia is hired. But if you told them 4 weeks ago, here's the resume. Same record as Woodson in a weaker conference, lost to a 10 or 11 win team, whatever it was, in their conference tournament, didn't make the tournament. The guy's got a 1-3 record historically in the NCAA tournament.
Right.
They would be irate, with Chris Beard and you name it out there. And who knows who they could have got. Nobody knows that. But, the McCollum kid, there's a kid, 40-some years old, got coached 4 D2 titles. They could have potentially had him. So now the fans are all happy about it. We're not that.
Right.
So whatever we say, for the most part, whatever we say leading up to the draft, if they draft somebody we don't like, that second they draft him is not going to change our opinion on him. Will we root for him? Yeah.
Absolutely.
I didn't want Mims last year.
Coach him up.
Yeah. I didn't want Mims. I wanted to trade him, get Bowers. Right now, stand by it. I hope Mims does well. I thought it was a big risk. But we won't be that. And I think Indiana, the fan base, not whole, everybody there, but that fan base is a perfect example of what fans do, right? And they're always going to do. There's nothing wrong with that, but you can't pretend you're analytical or you're critiquing something or you're bringing some sort of expertise to it, with all you're going to do is turn whatever they do is the best move ever, right? So we won't do
Right.
that. So as we look, we talk about Trey a little bit. You know, initially when all this happened, I'm like, what the hell are they doing, right? Like, to even let him go out. And, maybe it does appear now that maybe that was the case. They were just letting him test the waters, knowing he wouldn't get what he wanted,
They knew it,
or they knew they couldn't get in return what they wanted. And, well,
which is the same.
it kind of is. But the tricky part about this time of year doing that, or the summary of that is this time of year, draft picks are gold. I've talked to
We
this.
know. Yeah.
I've said this. It's ludicrous. Draft picks are everything. They're more important than players right now. Salary cap, draft picks, draft picks, draft. But you go into August, September, these same type of deals come up. Teams will give up number one picks for that.
Oh,
They'll gladly do it. And it doesn't make any sense, right?
no,
You
it's
can
all the same.
your value right now is players. It's a crapshoot in a lot of cases, especially if you're drafting mid to late round, right? So Trey's out there. At first I thought, he's gone, and I think most people did, and it's still going to be a challenge for him from a cap hit standpoint. But they can work it out, right? So what are your thoughts now? If you had to guess, is he back this year?
I think he's back, but I think they're going to have an idea what they're going to do with Moss and Pratt, because by the way they structured T and Jamar, I mean, they left themselves probably $6 or $7 million, if not more, of cap space that they could have done on. Yeah, they can't do it now. I think they can, from what I've read and researched, some of their signing bonuses and the roster bonuses, they can move that.
And Joe a little bit.
And again, I am no professional or any of that stuff, but just from what I've read, they can move some of that roster bonus to basically almost like a signing bonus and move that, to where they save their stuff on the cap on that. It ain't much, $1.5 million, $2 million, you know what I mean? But with Pratt, I think is 6.5. Moss is around 2.5 or 3. You
Moss
save
is the
yourself.
injury thing they have to wait on.
You got to wait on, you know what I mean? So what do you do? Do you wait till?
Have Olsen's what you do.
Well,
I'd
you
cut his
save
ass long time.
$3.5 million, but you just signed $1 million with some kind of
You still get the
performance
cap.
bonus or whatever.
You
But
lose the money, but the cap space
right,
you get back.
right. Which I think he may have gotten that anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, my thing on
Even
that.
if they cut him, he still may have got that
Yeah.
money. I really don't know.
My thing on always on that is I don't care. It's not my dollars, right? But I do care about the cap space. I don't care what they pay if it's not affecting the cap, right?
Right.
That's the end of the. But Volson, how the hell he's on this team is incredible to me. He's
Right.
from first year I would let him go. You could just see he's not it. And so anyway, we'll talk about the weaknesses there. But yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think Trey's going to be back, and obvious statement here, and people are. People argue with me a little bit, like, well, you save that much cap space and you get draft. If you think they're going to use the cap space they get from Trey and a draft pick and be better than with Trey,
No way.
You do that if you're a 4-win team. If you're a 6-win team, if your goal is maybe we get to 8 or 9 wins this year, we're building. If you're a New England or some of those lesser teams that are trying to rebuild back, yeah, but not when you're in the championship window, right? And they don't know how to handle that. So I think he'll be back. They make a big deal out of that 30-year-old and all that kind of stuff. That's lunacy. I mean, some guys are really good at those early 30s, right? I mean, you can, especially a guy like him, right? He's not relying on his uber athleticism as much as some of these other guys are. His bend, he's not a low bend guy. His hand usage is incredible, as good as anybody. He knows what he's doing. He's tremendous from a technique standpoint. So I think we both. Both agree on that. Cigar smoke and smoke behind me.
Yeah. So one thing that they will have to watch is with where they're at on the cap. They have to take him, and they're going to have to manage it to where they still have the needs. Like they still need a veteran guard.
Absolutely.
And it's not $1.5 million. You need, maybe a 6-7 million. Of course, I guess we're waiting on Scherf. We don't know whether he's going to retire, whether or not. We don't know if he even wants to play for the Bengals. He may be like, no, them guy, I ain't. But I can't believe that. I would think they're probably at least top 5 team that he'd want to go to. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, they can't eat up everything. And Trey's cap is going up. He's $16.5 million.
Yeah.
They're not going to sign him I'm going to figure, let's say they sign him for $27, $28 million. 23 to 24 million, that's going to be cap.
Yep.
That's an extra $5.5 to
Please.
$7 million of the cap that's going to come off. They're only like 22 million, I think. So that puts them let's just say $14 million. They love to keep $6 to $7 million cap left because of rookies and the halves in case something happens later in the season.
Mm-hmm.
So then that takes them to what, $6 million?
Like you got to go.
I don't leave them a lot, brother.
Yep.
But if they would have done Jamar and T different, maybe they got 10 or 11,
Well,
$12 million.
they should have, right? All three of them. And,
And maybe they're at 30 million instead of 20 million
Yeah.
now. Yeah, I mean, who
They
knows?
still got Volson, Pratt, can rework some stuff. They can make it work. It's just going to be a little bit tricky. So as we talk about now, we transition into where we're at right now, which is, the 2025 Bengals. That's where we're at. We get the draft here in a few weeks coming up. As you look at this team now, I'll throw my 2 cents in and then I'll turn it over to you. The question is this team better right now than they were at the end of the season, a 9-8 team? And you can point to the offensive line coach who I like, and you can, certainly, as Golden is going to be right, wrong, or indifferent. He's going to be aggressive, which I like. That soft zone, like I said about Lou, this is not this year. I've said about him since 22, 21, whatever. He can make a scrub quarterback look like a Hall of Famer like no defensive coordinator's ever done.
For sure.
And everybody overlooked it because he did well against Mahomes and Allen to a degree. But the Mike Whites of the world and the scrub quarterbacks you want to throw out there, he just sit back in that soft Russell fucking Wilson, right? Sit back in those soft zones and let these guys that can't make throws down the field, just let them eat them up, right? Yeah. So the question is, are they better right now? I don't think they are. And the reason is defense, they're probably about the same. The Green Bay D tackle probably makes them a little bit better on defense. I think they're probably a little bit better just by Jenkins and those guys getting another year. But those two guard positions, they've got the worst guard combination in the entire league. There are colleges that have better guards than that.
Do they have a combination?
No,
I don't think they really do.
If you put them in starter right now.
3 left guards is what they have.
What's it? The guy they just signed, or Cody Ford or Volson, those are 2 or 3. I say Ohio State's guards last year are better than that.
Well, for sure.
It's embarrassing.
It is embarrassing.
I've said it for years now. No one in that building they should outsource any offensive line evaluation. Maybe they are with the new guy now, but the guys that they've reached for, the guys they brought in, the 2021, this is all hindsight, but when you're a GM, Duke Tobin, you can call him whatever you want to call him, GM, VP, whatever. Your first task was when you get a quarterback, numero uno task, if you believe in him, is to protect him. Okay. Number one. That's the worst fucking offensive line you ever see those 2 years in a row.
5 years on.
Embarrassingly bad.
Yep.
So when people try to come at me with Tobin, I was like, how? How he even has a job is amazing to me, right? Yep. So that's probably because the Blackburns and whoever else is forcing a lot of this on him. You don't know who's doing what, but either way, he's got the job. So the offensive line right now, if they just go draft a guard, now you want to go into the draft, best player available as much as possible. And I'll get into that a little bit after let you answer this. But those guard positions, you got to address it. If it's Scherf, that's great. I think he's a clear upgrade, even at 33 years old. But there's 2 of them. You still don't have another one. Cody Ford's a backup, and I think he's a good backup. Volson shouldn't be on the team. I would have yanked him right now, save the cap, do whatever. It's just that's speaking of Burrow, and then I'll turn it over to you. He's quick and he's fast getting the ball out, and he's super athletic. He's getting stronger his legs and get more athletic even. But the problem is if you get beat as a guard and you're here and they beat you and they swim or you push them aside, then they beat you, he's going to react to it. When they do one spin move or one thing and they're bam, which is Volson. I've never seen a guy that bad as a starter in the NFL, honestly.
Yeah.
What was that?
It hasn't been good.
Bobby Hart years ago, is that his name? Tackle or Isaiah Prince, tackle. Played at Ohio State, and the whole time I'm like, how is this guy? And he comes there and does the same. It's just this constant. You can't have someone that bad. They just got to be serviceable. Brady had a lot of good lines, serviceable lines. Peyton Manning had good lines and serviceable lines, but they get rid of the ball so quick. Favre, even though they run around you got somebody that good, and especially their receivers. You don't have to have all pros at every position like Detroit does. They're loaded, but they're going to be facing some tough decisions. But what's your thoughts on the Bengals as they stand now compared to where they end the season?
So they're not any better defensively. They got a D tackle, they got a linebacker. He's just a backup. He's just a backup linebacker is all he is. Special teams guy, good player.
He's a good special teams player. He's a
But
good quarterback. He's a King Days game.
yeah, but that's for lesser money.
Yeah.
For actually, I think like $4 or $5 million left. Which is a good deal. Offensively, I think they'll be better if they address the guard position. Because I think Gesicki, I don't think I think they're underestimating what he done last year. And I'm a big tight end guy. I love receivers, don't get me wrong, but I love the middle of the field. And I think if T can stay healthy and you've got them two guys on the outside, and remember early in the season, they went a lot of 12 personnel, a lot of 12. Eric Hall played a lot. He got a lot of snaps. That was a lot of the reason why some of Gesicki's number early wasn't there. Well, if they don't address that, and if Gandy is their big tight end, he's not going to get the snaps at all. There'll be times when first and second down, short yardage, Gandy will come in and do that. But with Gesicki early, a full year in the system, a full year with Joe, and they use him correctly, which they did later in the season. That's why I think if they address guard, I think they'll be better. And that's saying something. So again, it goes back to the defense. If they can possibly be let's say 19 to 22 best defense, and they was 28th to 30th in most categories all year long. Yeah. You know what I mean? 19 to 22nd best, they'll win 11 or 12 games. They can win it all with a defense that's below average.
Oh, yeah.
No question about it.
Yep.
No question about it.
And, it's ironic how these things work sometimes. You heard me on a work call, former colleague, but something happened that he and I were just talking about, right? So I was talking to you and others about the Colts comparison to Peyton Manning's Colts to this team, right? And, 4 days later, Bill Polian's on Sirius XM saying the same thing. And, Polian gets criticism, and maybe he deserves it here and there. He gets pretty cranky at times, more than a few times, but he's pretty damn good, right? When he's talking about stuff, he's very good.
Yeah.
He played those teams, and he talked about
he put those teams together.
He absolutely did. He talked about the style of defense with Dungy was involved that they needed for the style of offense they were playing, and to mirror those two, that's a team. The Bengals are the same way. He said they're the exact same way, and he said, we had so much money in our receivers, quarterback, and edge. He goes, we didn't want to let edge go, or we didn't want to let they let Marshall go and got edge, but those decisions came. They had to let a guard go. He said we loved him, drafted him late. Loved him. His contract came up. He wanted more money. We couldn't do it. That's where there's just guys at certain positions you're going to have to let walk.
Real quick. So I heard the other day, I did not research this. I heard it. So Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne percentage of cap is almost identical to the percentage of cap with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins.
Makes sense. Yep.
Yeah. So, it really does make sense.
But the thing they don't have, their defense wasn't great either. And New England slowed them down, but there's not too many defenses out there going to slow them down. And even slow Manning down. Belichick was a wizard, right? They want to talk Brady.
There's a whole Michael Jordan effect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't stop him, just contain him.
They stopped him sometimes.
That's times.
So that's how good Belichick was. They want to give credit to Brady. They both deserve it because in those days, it wasn't Brady carrying him. That defense shut down a lot of teams, right? Manning was lighting everybody up. And people have selective memory, selective amnesia. People were always picking Manning to win it back then. And here comes, Tom Brady, nobody, and Belichick knew how to get to him. They'd rough the receivers up. It's hard to do that nowadays. And so you build that team.
Almost can't.
Yeah, you don't have, Trey's as good probably as Dwight Freeney, but they had Mathis on the other side.
Right.
And they had those linebackers. And then he said,
don't have that.
Some of you guys probably won't remember him, some will, but Bob Sanders was a hell of a safety. That dude was
little, but could hit, brother.
And he was just hurt all the time.
He played like a linebacker.
But when he was in there, and he said he changed their whole dynamic. So they're missing that. And, that formula can work, but you got to get up, which they can. You get up in the lead, and then those two pass rushers coming in when you got a big lead. You don't have to be a great run-stopping team, especially if you jump out and score all the time, right? But, they couldn't do anything, right? The Green Bay guy is going to help them on defense. I usually call him fat guy. It'd be nice to call him Green Bay guy. I'm going to call him that all year, Green Bay guy. The Green Bay guy. He's big, And honestly, I think
he'll help.
I think McKinley, he's going to get better. Jackson, I think
too.
Chris Jenkins, he showed some glimpses. They're talking about pass rush, D-tackle, and wasting a pick on that. You got 4 guys, man. You can't put it. you believed in those two guys enough to draft them. You just can't go do that every year.
No.
And just like they did with corner, right? They just kept driving on. I mean, you missed on good guys that I wanted that are playing at a high level, right?
Yeah.
So I think BJ Hill can rush the passer.
For sure.
You rush the passer, as they said, on the way to the quarterback, right?
Right.
And with Golden, that's going to be, if he's Al Golden that we know, which I think he will be, that's how they're going to play. Ears pinned back, they're going to play on their toes, not their heels. It's not going to be set back and hope let them get down to the 15-yard line, then we'll try to stop them. That strategy by Lou, that sounds great. Oh, they held him to a field goal. That was his whole strategy.
It took 15 plays to do it.
And it took up 8 minutes of the clock. So your vaunted offense is not getting the ball, right?
Right.
That's what hurt them.
Get the ball back
Game after
to your
game. The New England game with Jacoby Brissett. I mean, it was just miserable, right?
Yeah.
He didn't kill him at the run game, did. But if you're getting beat that bad, bring people up and go at him. And he's going to do that. I think it's going to be a lot more fun to watch. So we'll talk about, we'll get into some draft discussion here real quick. It's going to be a little shorter episode. Well, I guess we're up to 30 minutes, but best player available. And I saw James Rapine and some folks arguing about that. I always go for that too. That's, me for the draft. It's always put yourself in a position, but there are parameters around that. The argument's always, no, you take the best player available no matter what. That's not true. Because if the Bengals are drafting 10th and the best player available is a quarterback, they're not going to take, right? I mean, that's obvious, but they're also probably not going to take a receiver. If it's the Missouri kid or the Arizona kid flies down to them, McMillan, as good as he is, they can't take a receiver there. You follow me, Stevie? It's got to be best player available where you have some sort of need, right? It doesn't have to be a need pick. But when you draft for need, a former NFL GM told me face-to-face one time, he said, here it is, Scott, I'm going to sum it up for you. See great player, take great player. See great player 3 or 4 picks before you, trade up, get great player. And this guy got the great players.
They don't do that.
He got the great players. They don't, because, Mims might turn out right, but imagine they had Bowers and what they could have done. Gosh. And maybe they'll let T go if you had him, right? And save that cap money. It could all work out. Mims he's got the potential, but the injuries. But as we talk about that draft, we're not going to get heavy into the draft right now, but we will. We're going to milk it positionals, and we'll do some longer episodes that are really focused on it. But I'll let you start, and hopefully you don't pick the same player. We don't rehearse any of this stuff, which you could probably tell. But just one player in the draft, and I'm not going to be a Ohio State homer, but I will mention one as a secondary. The one player in the draft, maybe you like him for the Bengals, maybe you don't. I don't know how much you thought about that, but one guy you just love. Who is that? And then I'll give you mine.
So I'm cheating a little bit because I've dove in recently to the draft, but not as much a few weeks before. So I'm on PFN, Mock Draft Simulator. I actually just started one. Went 7 rounds. I would not do that because we're only going to go basically talking about best player available. But right now I'm at pick 17, and the player pool left. Jahad Campbell. I think with what he can do, so from what Al Golden likes, I think he called him is basically that rover guy, that guy that can do everything.
Ohio State plays that with Styles a little bit,
right? And I think Jahad can be that. I think he can be that guy who can cover a little bit. He's a good blitzer, not necessarily off the edge, but he's a good blitzer. And what Al likes to do is he won't be like Lou. He's not going to mix it up a ton, but he will bring pressure, like you said. But he's going to play a 4-3. He's going to play some 5-2, and he'll play, that nickel dime stuff that everybody plays, right? But he's not going to mix it up to the point though that they're going to make you think too much.
Yeah.
So, but with someone like this that can rush the passer from blitzing, and he can cover a little bit, super athletic, and he come from a program that they basically done it all, right? Pretty much, super conference, seen plenty of athletes, guarded plenty of athletes. I like him. And a lot of people was against it. Like you can't take a linebacker that early. Well, if you use him right, I think he's the guy. There's a few more. We won't get into that. We'll get into more depth as we go. But I really like Campbell. Consensus on PFN's got him 23. So about 5-6 picks difference. You know what I mean? I guess it's all apples, oranges, apples, whatever. But that's my guy. I like Sim get.
Good attempt there at the food analogy.
Yeah.
That's good. You're not really a fruit guy. I mean, you're a little fruity, but you're not a fruit guy.
I'm more of a beer guy, so
you are.
Yeah, I
Cincinnati,
like fruity beer.
Flavorful beer like a Sam Adams compared to. That's how I'll view that comment. Like it's like comparing a great Sam Adams beer to a Mick Ultra.
Some people have to get up and go to work.
Yeah,
they can't just sit in their living room in their pajamas or in your underwear. I don't know.
I sit there
it could be
Cheetos on a beanbag. That's
maybe.
I don't know whose joke that was. I didn't get to work out today, which is kind of tough. But anyway, so yeah, I think I wouldn't take a linebacker that high, but I get what you're saying. Pratt's going to be gone. Like I like Pratt. I just think he's lost a step. People would get on him about diagnosing a play or whatever else. That's not what I saw. I saw him still reading it right. He's just too slow to get there.
Yeah, bad angles, couldn't make the tackle.
I mean, we can all relate to that. Think about like I shoot basketball every once in a while. And you go try to do something, you're like, "Whew, that used to feel a whole lot different, right?" You're there, and you just can't do it. And I think what I liked about him in his day, and it backfired a little bit with Osai, but he's a junkyard dog. They don't have that right now.
No,
Pratt was a junkyard dog. He'd get in somebody's grill. He would crank somebody more than Logan, and knock you in the next week and just played his ass off. So I'm not going to dog him. I think they should let him go. But to me, I thought he's a heck of a player.
Oh, yeah.
Made to play the Raiders game, one of that moment we were at.
Travis Kelce's trip.
There.
I mean,
he was a player. So not to dog him or anything else, as my daughter walks the dog out. But so my player is Tyler Warren. I don't think they'll take him. But that dude, you watch the basketball videos.
He's a player.
He is not just a player. This dude is an animal. He wears 44. Why does he wear 44?
I don't know.
John Riggins. And he plays like him. This dude, if you see the basketball videos of him,
I have.
Unreal. So we talked, I talked to some people and they try to compare him to Bowers. It's not really fair to compare really maybe any tight end living right now to Bowers.
He's a better blocker than Bowers.
Oh, he absolutely is. Talk about his hips. He's not the route runner Bowers is, but he doesn't have to be. And I'll give Chris Sims credit. He probably could be. He's probably a little sloppy on everything because nobody can stop him. So he's not worried about, did I get my steps right? He's just going to bump his shoulder into you. Good luck. Who's going to cover him with Burrow, right? So, like, you look at Gesicki, to me, like, if they drafted, they won't, but like the Loveland kid from Michigan or Jason Taylor's son, he's athletic. But those are all like Gesicki to me. So I love the tight end position too, but those guys are just kind of like Gesicki.
They're more of a
slot. I mean, they can
he's just a big slot.
Yeah. Tyler Warren, you throw him in the short yardage where they struggle every once in a while, throw him in there, you think they're going to struggle? You throw him in the
He would help.
Throw him in the backfield with Burrow. You can hand off to him. You see some of the jump. He looked like Marcus Allen, right? Like jumping over. That dude can block, short yardage catch. He can run the ball, reverse. I mean, and he brings that little bit, what we just talked about, Pratt on defense, that junkyard dog. I mean, he's a player. He'll fight.
I love the hell out of him. He won't be there, but
he might. They can.
I don't think
only
so.
16 can go, right? They keep saying all these guys aren't going to be there. Somebody's got to be there.
But the problem is there's no quarterbacks going to go. There's not going to be 5 or 6.
There's probably going to be 2.
I mean,
I mean, might go. I wouldn't take 3, but Sanders, I don't care what they say about him, and I'll save my thoughts on him. He's going to go. They always go.
I mean, maybe for 17. Yeah,
he will.
Yeah.
He's going to go, and Cam Ward's going to go, and Dart's got a shot. But there's 2 or 3 tackles that are going to go. The receivers are going to probably go. The edge rushers are deep. Pearson, all those guys are probably going to go.
Which can help and can hurt because if they're deep, then you think, well, I might be able to get them 20. I might be able to get them 22. I mean, who knows how it's going to go?
But that tier's not deep. There's just a bunch of them. Pierce, all these other guys. We'll get into that. But the other guy that I'd mentioned, I'm a self-proclaimed Ohio State homer, right? So picking a Penn State guy is not easy, right? Like I like Drew Allar. I think he's better than any quarterback came out this year. I don't care what they say.
Yeah,
we'll see if I'm right here about 5 years, 4 years. But the other guy I like I'm trying not to be a homer is Sawyer. Like you compare him when Sam Hubbard came out, I was all over him. I saw him play. I was like, I don't understand why they're downgraded. This guy can play football.
Yeah, third round.
So the problem with the Bengals a little bit, they jump all over that Spark stuff, right? Which means that safety from South Carolina and some other guys, right? I would prefer to look at, or the guy, the Texas A&M, Stewart, I think his name, the defensive end that has no production. But he was in the backfield a lot. He just didn't finish because he's all over the place, right? He got in the backfield. I could see him picking him, but if they don't go edge there, Jack Sawyer, like he's not the same kind of athlete that Hubbard was coming out. I mean, Hubbard played lacrosse, and he was like was he a safety or something in high school, and he just got big at Ohio State.
Yeah,
they put it on him, and he made plays at Ohio State. But Sawyer's pass rush at Ohio State, he didn't finish a lot either. But him and JT both, Tuimoloau, both got it, didn't I? I didn't think I'd get that. They both played really well, but Sawyer's very comparable. He's not as long as Hubbard, like arms and rangy, but he's more powerful, right? You put him over on the opposite side of Trey where he's stopping the run. He'll seal the edge just like Sam. Those two guys, pretty good fits, I think. So I would bang the drum for Tyler Warren. Get the reference. All right, so now what's going to be my favorite segment of the year. We're going to do it frequently outside of cigars. We'll do cigars too. So that Perdomo, highly recommend it for you cigar smokers. I usually go Rocky Patel, Perdomo. Got a big cigar order coming, but it didn't get here in time. I was going to change it up a little bit. So I'm generally speaking, even wearing Perdomo clothing at times, but smoking a Perdomo. So my Uncle Terry, you know him. I know him.
Doing well.
This whole town knows him. Whole area knows him, right? Sure. He's one of the funniest guys I've ever in my life. So I don't want this to be looked at as a derogatory slam.
Well, there's Dirt, and then there's Terry, because he's older than Dirt.
He is old. He is so old. I'm not going to bring it to us. So my Uncle Terry, like what he does, he comes out here. We sit here in the patio. I don't know how much you guys can see there. There's, we got the TV up here. We got the Reds. So
first he puts the cane down, and then he sits on the couch.
If you've seen the Geico commercials, if you're starting a fire, which I have one on here, no, that's not how you do it. So I was like, his son, my cousin, so you just do it, like to let Terry critique you. But Terry is one of the funniest people, and as my brother said, he's a joy to be around, right?
Oh, sure.
So he is. Yeah. He's always
love him to death.
So what he does though, he comes out and he'll have a piece of paper in his pocket. I don't know if I told you this, and it's his bets. But somehow he forgets it if things aren't going well. I don't know what I did, but he doesn't make bets, allegedly.
Allegedly.
So I've been grilling him on some bets here. So to his credit, a week or so ago, which I've got a bet on too, for all you gamblers out there, asterisk, this is not meant to be, whatever. Uncle Terry says Florida's going to win it. I'm going to look up his exact win total for the Red Legs, which I do think this is a good bet. He said, that's inappropriate. I sent him a text I got of 3 teams I got a bet on a parlay. And I said, if you had to bet who wins the World Series, and he said, out of these 3? No. But he said he thinks the Dodgers are going to win the World Series. He's not going out on a limb there. But he thinks the Reds are 85-77. So there's your bet. I've got him 92 wins. What say you?
86.
86, yeah.
I'm
so you're thinking wild card or not?
Well, I'm thinking wild card, and I don't think the divisions is going to be near what a lot of other people think. I think it's going to be Milwaukee and Cincinnati pretty much all year long. Cardinals
did the opposite of what they know, but you never know with them. They always they let guys. They don't look good.
They're a good organization. I don't think that's going to work for them this year.
I don't think it will either. Pittsburgh, they weren't that bad last year at times.
It started off good, but
the pitcher's awesome.
They had a really bad run there, and it killed them.
Yeah.
But no, I think about 86 wins. I think if their pitching holds up and it's all about staying healthy, they're not real deep. They're a bunch of young kids.
Yeah.
They're still young. If they don't hold up, then as of right now, you guys will probably listen to this way after this game, but it's 3-2 and top of the 6th. So you probably know the outcome already, but that's where we're at right now.
So we're not directed by this game at all, but I think baseball is a weird sport. I've had this argument with people before, this debate that love baseball. Like, you go 6-4 in baseball, you're winning a division. 600 baseball.
Yeah,
6-4.
Yeah,
I mean, name that in another sport.
Great, just be good.
You go 6-4 in most other sports.
You get hot at the end of the year. Yeah, good pitching, good bullpen.
I'm a huge Tito Francona fan, and
Yeah, me too.
I think what he's bringing to the table means a lot. I'm not
Yeah.
we've dogged David Bell enough. We'll give him a break since he's probably
We don't have to. We can dog him the whole podcast if you want.
Dog him all year. What's it? Maybe take one David Bell stat. No, I'm just kidding. But Francona, I've loved him throughout his career. You know, when he was in Cleveland, I thought he was hilarious. He was up there at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame one time. He was riding around in his little Vespa, right? I don't even read the story how much he ate, like 18 or 20 ice creams in a hotel the night before a game because he's nervous. This guy he's off the rails, right? But he's hilarious. So we are going to talk baseball throughout the year. Leading up to the draft, we're going to be pretty much all draft. We'll have a Uncle Terry segment and maybe a cigar and keep it fun. But that's kind of it for today. I think, you know, as we get into the draft, we'll have some fun. We'll come up. But if you guys have other segments, there's going to be a lot of people we know listening to this. So
So something that I have not brought up to you, I got a little
surprise. That's not part of
yeah, a little bit. So I think one thing that me and Scott both have I was going to say a small pet peeve, but it's a pretty big pet peeve. So at the end of every episode, I already know what I'm going to say. All slow traffic, stay to the right. Please, all slow.
Me nuts.
Drives me crazy. So
with lane campers, get the hell out of here.
Yeah. So with that being said, with all slow traffic, please stay to the right.
We're going fast, baby.
We're fast.
Zooming right through the draft.
That's right. Thanks for listening to the BTD Bengals podcast. We'll see you next time.
Hey, guys.
Thanks.